Hey y'all! Today's lesson is fractions, decimals, and percents. There's already been a lesson on changing decimals to fractions and fractions to decimals. So today we're just going to kind of breeze through fractions, decimals, percents. They're all related. You can rewrite them and the value stays the same. So I'm going to give you just some quick examples. So copy all this down. And then we're going to go through changing a decimal to a percent. To change a decimal to a percent, you have to move the decimal 2 places to the right, because you technically are multiplying by 100. So if I move my decimal 2 places to the right, it would be 25%. When you have 0.05 and you move it 2 places, it would be 5%. Now, if you have a whole number in front of a decimal and you move it 2 places, you would have to add a 0, so 130%. And then in this case, even when I move it 2 decimal places, I'm still going to have a decimal in front of my number, so 0.7%. There's nothing wrong with a point percentage. 0.7% is a totally fine value. So a percent to a decimal means you divide by 100, because percent means per 100, out of 100. If you divide by 100, you're going to move your decimal 2 places to the left. So if you start with 15%, my decimal is at the end. I'm going to move it 2 places, so it would be 0.15. That's changing a percent to a decimal. You do not write a decimal. You do not write a percent sign. 250% would just be 2.5. 0.3%, I still need to move it 2 times, so I'm going to have to add 2 zeros. 0.003. So that would be 3 thousandths. And then 9%, I have to add 1 0, so 0.09. Changing a percent to a decimal means you're moving the decimal 2 places to the left because we are dividing by 100. It doesn't change the value. It still is equivalent. We are just rewriting it in a different way. Now, if you want to change a fraction to percent, I believe the easiest way is to make it a denominator of 100. If you can find a denominator of 100, then you know the percentage, because percent means out of 100. So in this one, you could make an equivalent fraction, and 20 will go into 100 5 times. 5 times 20 is 100. So 1 times 5 is 5. And 5 out of 100 is 5%. That would be your answer, 5%. I found equivalent fractions with a denominator of 100. And then you can find your percentage. Well, if you have a fraction that cannot make 100 easily, like 3/8, 8 times something, but not a whole number like 20 times 5, just set up a proportion, and like we've learned, x over 100, because x would be the percentage. If you set up a proportion, you will cross multiply, so you get 300 equals 8x. Divide by 8, and you end up getting 30, let's see. I thought I had my calculator, so 8 will go into there 3 times, 24, 37.5, because that's going to be 56. So 37.5%. All right, so I set up a proportion, x over 100 to find my percent. You can set up a proportion every single time. You could have set up a proportion here, but if you can make equivalent fractions, in my opinion, that's the easiest. All right, percents to fractions. There are a couple of ways to do this. The easiest way is going to put your percentage over 100, because percent means out of 100. So 35% is 35 out of 100. Then you would need to reduce and simplify. So you would divide by 5, and you get 7/20, and so that is your fraction. The other option is to convert it to a decimal and then a fraction. So in this example, 0.75%. 0.75. You might try and do 0.75 over 100. But that is mathematically incorrect, because you cannot have a decimal and a fraction. That doesn't make sense. A decimal on top of a fraction. So that's a no-no. we need to convert it to a decimal first. So I'm going to move my decimal 2 times, because remember, a percent to a decimal means you move it 2 to the left. So 0.0075. And now I have a decimal that I can rewrite as a fraction. So this was tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths. So 75 over 10,000. And you can reduce by 5, and we would get 20, no. 5 would be 15 over 2,000. And then you could reduce that by 5. And then all the way, and your final answer would be 3 over 400. Can you see that? And you can just keep reducing by 5, or you could reduce by 15, and you would get 3 over 400. So, decimals to percents, percents to decimals, fractions to percents, percents to fractions. They're all related, and they are all equivalent, just rewritten differently. So, let me give you an example that you're going to see. All right. A survey found 12% of students went to Subway. So you would need to know 12% went to Subway. So write that down. 25 did not, 2 25ths did not eat. 2 25ths did not eat. And 0.8 brought their lunch from home. 0.8 brought their lunch. So the question says, order from least to greatest. Now, if you want to order from least to greatest, you need to get them all in a form that you can compare them. I am not going to tell you if you need to convert them all to fractions, decimals, percents. You have one of each. So at this point, if you have a method, if you want to convert them all to decimals, convert them all to fractions, that is fine. Since this one is a percent, I'm just going to convert them all to percents. I see my decimal here. And I know that a decimal of 0.8, I'm going to move the decimal twice, so that would be 80%. So now I have 12%, 80%, and now I have a fraction that I need to get to a percent. I see that 25 can be written as an equivalent fraction over 100. 25 times 4 is 100. So 2 times 4 is 8. And so that would be 8%. And I got an equivalent fraction out of 100. Now, you could have converted them all to decimals. You could have converted them all to fractions. As long as you convert them equivalently and correctly, then you'll be fine. Order them from least to greatest. So I see that this is my smallest, so 2 25ths. Remember, you need them in original form. So the people who did not eat is the smallest, and then next would be the 12%. And then last would be the 0.8. And that would be your final answer. So you've ordered them from least to greatest. Okay, so for the last few minutes, your homework on this is going to be practicing on IXL.com. If you look at your assignment sheet, there's 2 parts where you need to go and practice. 2 different sections on decimals, fractions, and percents. We are not going to spend any more time with this because it's review and you're going to do it on IXL. Now you have your PSAT. So I recommend on Tuesday spending time, I've given you some websites, spend some time going over what to expect, the types of problems, things you need to bring, and be prepared for the PSAT 8-9 because then you'll feel better about it. And then you can do your Monday night's assignments Thursday, and just as long as they're done before Friday. So remember the PSAT is on Wednesday, and then these problems or these examples that you just write down, this is going to be practiced on IXL.com, which I will take a participation grade. All right, see ya.